Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of Connected and Committed podcast.
Yes, it's good to be back. I feel like it's been a long time, but it has been
It
actually.
has been because we were on.
Yeah, we were gone for 2 weeks, so
Mhm.
we recorded a bunch of episodes like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. It's always weird to be back in like a normal routine and being like, okay, this is what we do. I don't know. So we hope that everyone is doing really well. We're now in April, which is crazy. By the time this comes out, it'll be
Oh,
April.
really?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Happy April Fool's Day. That's
Was
April.
it April 1st?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
so weird.
So this episode's a joke.
Yeah. We are super excited because we have a special guest with us today. Um, this is actually someone who is in RAA currently. And she posted a little bit ago that she got married, and I just was super interested in her story. So I reached out to her, and I thought this would be a really good episode for a podcast just so we can hear her story. And for those who are dealing with relationship anxiety, I think this will just give you some hope that relationship anxiety doesn't have to be like where things end. Like there's so much more beyond that. And we're hoping that this can give you just a glimmer of hope in this process.
Yeah, and if I guess I feel like most people are familiar with what REA is if you listen to us consistently. But REA is like our online membership and community where we share like masterclasses about relationship anxiety, and we have like a group chat and just a big community aspect where people kind of speak to each other and all that. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
A lot of accountability for sure.
Yeah.
So
And if you want to be part of it, you can, in the description. Wow, losing my words. The link will be in the description. And if you want to sign up, you can just go on that link.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast. I want to make sure I'm saying your name right. Svena?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
And so you're in Germany, right?
Yeah, I'm in Germany.
Are you originally German or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. Okay. Because I don't hear that name often. That's why Svenya.
No,
Yeah.
it's actually like I think I've just met people from Germany that have this name.
Oh, really? Okay. Got it. Also, the time zone difference. I remember seeing, I was like, wait, you're in Frankfurt. And I was like, but I think originally we said that we were 6 hours apart, but actually with the time zone difference, we're 6 hours apart. Otherwise, we're 7
We're
hours
7
apart.
usually.
Yeah, exactly. So I was
Yeah,
confused.
that's really tough, but I'm glad we were able to make it work.
We went to Frankfurt.
Yeah,
It was
I
nice.
like it.
We
I
went
like
to
it,
the Christmas market. Had really good Turkish food there.
I had the best spetzel in my life in Frankfurt, and I have not had it since. I can't find it as good, and it makes me so sad.
I had curry sausage for the first time. That was good.
That's nice.
So obviously, I reached out to you originally knowing that you got married. So maybe just tell us too, like, how long have you been in RA? When did you get married? We'll ask those two questions first.
Yeah. So I got married in November, so it's almost 5 months now already.
Wow.
That's crazy too.
Okay.
And I think I've been exactly 1 year now in RAA.
Happy anniversary for us. That's exciting. 5 months and also a year of RA. Wow.
Yeah, and thank you for being part of it for so long.
Yeah, OG. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you obviously were experiencing a lot of relationship anxiety with your now husband when you guys were dating. Did you have a relationship anxiety before you guys were dating with anybody else, or this first time?
No, actually, he was also my first boyfriend.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So before that, it was I didn't think so much about relationships. I had my idea of what I wanted my partner to be like, which actually came true, which I'm very happy about. But I never really thought about what it means to be in a relationship actually. So I think it was mostly my expectations. Like fairy tale expectations, and then real life is different sometimes.
Yeah.
But that was the backdrop of that, I think.
Definitely. Okay. Well, tell us more about, so when you started dating your boyfriend at the time, did the anxiety come right away? Did it take some time? Like, tell us a little bit about that journey of how relationship anxiety started for you.
So it was like a really exciting time for me in general because we met 1 month before I moved away to another country for a year abroad. And so it was like my first time moving out and going another place. But I had like seen him through Far From Friends, and I kind of got a crush.
Mhm.
So I actually was the one who was like initiating that we met through
Sure.
friends.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then I forgot the question right now.
Sure. When did so even in the
Yeah.
beginning of the process, I'd like to hear about that. Yeah, go ahead. Keep
hmm
going.
And then so at first it was really, really exciting. And we were, having coffee and dating for a few times.
Mm,
But within 2 weeks, we got together. And these 2 weeks were just like, yeah, really exciting. I was very nervous all the time.
mm,
And it was a lot of emotions, like the kind of emotions that you do have when you have a crush on someone.
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, but then it was very strange because then after we got together, like my emotions went like completely down, and I was like so shocked because suddenly it was secure
Mm,
and we were like together, and I was just like the adrenaline kick like went away, I think, and that was like for me a bit strange.
Mhm.
Um,
sure.
and it's also something that I've heard of often, that if some people, um, if you're someone who's like excited for new things, and maybe also I have read about that people who have ADHD, which I don't know if I have, but people who have ADHD also have sometimes the problem with if the chase is over, the excitement is over, it can have like
Mm,
turn emotions upside down. So that was like the first time I felt a bit scared and anxious because I was like, wait, how am I not supposed to feel like super happy now that we came
Mhm.
together?
yeah.
Yeah, but that was also 2 weeks before I left Germany, so it was just, I think, a lot of things at once.
Mm, for
Yeah.
sure.
That makes sense. I mean, I guess that's interesting because I feel like a lot of people experience that when they have relationship anxiety, and I think I can even speak for myself. Whenever we were talking
Mm,
before we actually started dating, when Joy and I were talking, like I was very, I
Mhm.
mean, I was having a good time. I was excited. I was having a good time. It was fun to get to know each other. I could tell that
Mhm.
we would vibe really well and all those things. But
Mhm.
then it's only like when I started thinking about like being in a relationship and
Mhm.
like taking that step and then taking the step and everything after that, that's when I started really experiencing a lot of anxiety.
right.
Yeah.
um, because I think obviously when you're not in a relationship, like officially, you're not, there's no stakes,
Mm,
Mhm.
like there's no expectation. So you're
Mhm.
just there, you're just present, you're just having fun. And yeah, just seeing if it would be a good fit. So yeah, it's interesting. But I think a lot of people experience that, and that's when they,
Mhm.
like you, they kind of like start freaking out a little bit and figure being like, I don't understand, like why am I experiencing this? Like I thought I wanted this,
yeah.
and then once you're in it, you're like, well, do I want this?
Right. That's
Yeah.
what feels confusing, where it's like I, I think this is where the our minds can get really confused because
Yeah.
in the beginning it's like as you're saying the first 2 weeks were so great and so fun, all these things, but when that shift happens and then suddenly the feelings are down,
Mhm.
you're like, well, then something must be wrong, or I'm making meaning behind what this means rather than it being like maybe I'm just like getting into this more and other
Yeah.
Mhm.
things are going on. But it sounds like at that point, especially you were 2 weeks dating, then you
Mhm.
left to a different country
Yeah.
for how long?
It was 9 months in the end.
9 months. Okay.
Mm.
Mhm.
So you're gone for 9 months. And so my feelings are down. I'm long distance now. Like,
It's a
what am
lot.
I
Mhm.
supposed to do with these feelings and emotions? Which that's a lot, like for
Yeah.
sure. Like for especially for long distance people, like we get you. We know what that feels like. Is
Mhm.
it kind of adds on to maybe the confusion of what is
Mhm.
normal and what's not. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, maybe are we if we were together, would that be different? Or is it just because I don't like them? Like it's
Mhm.
super confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, when you move away, it's like really, it was really good because we had a lot of time to talk, and
Mm.
we got close really quickly. But at the same time, you forget so quickly how people look when you don't see them for
Yep.
a few weeks, and especially if it's just a new person that you've met. Yeah,
Mm. That's
it's
fair.
just a lot of things at once. But it also
Totally.
has some. I would say it also has some perks. Like if you're If you're really looking for a partner for long term, I think if you have just the possibility to talk, it
Mm.
you get close really quickly, and you also get to see who they are quickly.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of pros for sure. I'm pro whatever. Like I love. I
You're
think
pro.
there's a
You're
lot
pro
of.
long
I'm
distance.
pro long distance now, but you're right. I do think that there is a value because you are having to have a lot of conversations and communicate a lot
Yeah.
more than maybe you
Yeah.
would feel like you had to in some ways when you're in person. Because not saying you wouldn't communicate, but there's just other things you can be doing. But
Mhm.
for long distance, this is all the biggest tool you have for.
Mhm.
Sounds like for you, like 9 months for sure.
Yeah.
Um, how did so again you started questioning like the feelings went down, you went long distance.
Mm.
How was that process for you? And like tell me how like when
How
you started
bad
noticing that,
was it?
how bad was your anxiety? Yeah, so curious.
Yeah. It was the thing was I didn't really know what it was because I had
Mm,
never heard of relationship anxiety before,
Mhm.
and it took like half a year until I first read something online about relationship anxiety, and it
mm,
kind of rang a bell because I was like, wait, this is what I'm feeling. Because also when we got to know each other here a bit, and we talked to our families on the phone, and we knew our friends,
mm,
so I soon had like an idea what kind of a person he was. And
Yeah.
it was like everything that I was like, someone who's humble, which is really weird nowadays, I think. And we have the same dreams, we had the same
mm,
ideas about things in life, and the same kind of way to deal with things. And really, it was really a lot of harmony from the beginning,
mm.
which I always said. But I was like, why am I not feeling the way I expected to feel?
Mm.
Yeah.
And that was like, and we talked about my feelings pretty soon. Um, and we also noticed that kind of we had the different attachment. So he was like more afraid of losing someone from childhood on, and I was like more. I realized there that I was more scared of, yeah, how do you say in English? Making a choice or like bounding
Yeah.
yourself.
That
Hmm.
commitment.
Yeah, exactly, a
Yeah.
commitment, which I never thought before, but I did have that about big life choices. I always overthink everything.
Mm,
Um, so we noticed that pretty soon, but it took a long time until I found something that was like explaining to me what it is, and it was a lot of ups and downs. It was some weeks I was just like in love as I was before, and was like on the seventh cloud, as you say
mm,
in German, I think. And then the next day, I would be so anxious that I didn't even know. Like it was like a switch, I
mm.
forgot the feelings that I had the day before, and the
Yeah.
same way around. When I had the highs, I forgot why I ever felt so low. So it was
Mm.
like I
Yeah.
noticed that it was not healthy, and it was really weird.
Mm.
So yeah, but it took a long time until I got a clue what it could be.
For sure. Can you be even, if you don't mind, like even being like specific when it comes to
The
those
lows.
lows? What
Mhm.
was like the thoughts that were going on in your mind? Like what was going on in your body? Like what did that like feel like and sound like for you?
Mm, yeah. So it always started from like a weird feeling.
Mm.
Like it was just usually like superficial things and like really small things. Like I don't know, I didn't like the color of the t-shirt,
Yeah.
or I didn't like the haircut that day. And it was like nothing important, but the way that I think like it made like me think so much about it. My mind made me think so much about it because I was like so focused on that because I had this weird feeling and I didn't really know.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so I think what the brain does is like it's looking for something to explain the fear, and
Right.
then it looks onto superficial things, and it was like just like going around and around. And often I would just Google, how important is it that you always feel attracted to your partner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, which I later learned that it's also like kind of a compulsion, which you try to feel better, but it's not like you're not going to find the answer if this is the right partner for you on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Especially
these
with
kind of
you.
things, yeah. And then I would get super frustrated because I think I always knew that, like from very soon, that this is the right person for me.
Hmm.
But I think it kind of, now looking back, I think it kind of scared me
Hmm.
because, yeah, it all was really quickly, and I think, yeah, I think that's what was going on. It's a bit. I'm
Yeah,
trying to explain it here a bit, but yeah.
I think you're doing great, and you're giving a great picture of what it feels like to be anxious. It's like it's
Hmm.
not it's not like so clear. It's so like up and down, and it's confusing, and there's
Yeah,
a lot of emotions and feelings.
and it's,
Um, and I even love the fact that you said like there was some point in you, sounds like super early on, where you're like, I think
mhm,
this might be the person.
mhm,
It might be it. I don't know, but there's just something that the connection is good. It feels like all the boxes are being checked really quickly.
yeah,
And there was probably, as you said, some part of you that was freaked out by that. And because that happened, this is why
mhm,
your anxiety was showing up in the first place. It's trying to find all the reasons as to
mhm,
why there's something wrong, or your feelings aren't good, or his shirt is weird, or I don't know, like look at his haircut, like all these things. And
yeah,
it's focusing on all these like superficial things when in reality that's not the issue. And the more
mhm,
that we focus on the shallow things, we're not going to find the answer, because it's just going to be like, yeah, you should think you're attractive all the time, or I'm focusing on all this attractiveness, when in reality like
mhm,
that is not the main issue. The main issue is me and
yeah.
what's going on inside of me, for sure.
And it was always like the same kind of things, you know, it was nothing, it was maybe some new thing, but it was always the same kind of patterns, and
yeah,
Mm.
not something you can find an answer to. So
Yep.
that was, yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's the same for me when I was struggling. It's interesting because it always focuses on. That's why obviously in RA we have like those specific master classes about like
Yeah.
attraction and feelings and things like that, because it's like people tend to struggle with those common
Hmm.
things, and so it's interesting. But when you see, your anxiety bringing up like things like that,
Mm.
it's like the anxiety, that's what you see. It's not a good advisor because it brings
Mhm.
up things that are not going to make you
Yeah.
succeed in your relationship. Like nobody has ever been married forever because they think their partner is attractive all the time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nobody's ever been married forever because they wear the right clothes all the time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like those are things that are, um, I don't even want to say they are superficial, because obviously we all are entitled to our own taste and the
Yeah.
things that we like. Like, if like your partner, I guess sometimes she wears something and I don't like it, I'll
Mm.
tell her. To be
Yeah.
honest, I'm pretty honest with that. Not in like, because I don't want people to think
Yeah. Not like a weird
I'm like
like
abusive or
controlling way at
yeah,
all.
controlling. It's just that I like fashion a lot.
Yeah.
But it's normal, and like
Vice versa. Yeah.
I'm not expecting her to find me attractive as soon as I wake up and my breath stinks. You know what I mean? Like it's there's times where like I'm more attractive than others, and that's normal. And there's times
Right.
where like,
Yeah.
even though I can't tell her that because she get mad at me. Just kidding. Because women don't want to hear that. Just kidding. But it's I think also after you get married, with us, like it's not even something I think about. Like
Yeah.
I don't wake up in the morning and check if I find you attractive.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I love you
Yeah.
for who you are, and I think
Yeah.
that supersedes everything else.
Mhm.
And yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. And I think this is with what we focus on when we are dating. I think this is why anxiety can be as strong and have that much control at this time. Because as you're saying, I had a fear of making decisions to or committing. And so this is the time where your anxiety has the room, we'll say, to ask all the questions and have all the doubts and do all the things, because it's like you're about to make a huge decision. Don't make a
Mm.
mistake and all the stuff. And then once you're married, I'm not saying if you don't deal with the stuff that's coming up, it can for sure show up in when you're married. But
yeah,
for a lot of the big people, it's the hurdle of making the choice. And once you make
Yeah.
the choice and you're in the choice, then it's like, okay,
feels
well, I'm
better.
here now. And
Yeah.
now what am I going to do with that choice? And so,
That's true.
um, yeah. And so I know you mentioned that it took some time for you to figure out that this was even anxiety in the first place. You found something
Hmm.
that kind of told you this is relational anxiety or OCD or
Hmm.
anything. Once you figured out that's what you were dealing with, what did that process look like for you to start the healing journey?
Yeah. So I think it was just a lot of steps here and there.
Sure.
Um, first of all, my algorithm on Instagram, once I found that post and I looked more into it, it gave me more
Oh
information.
yeah.
And I also found you guys. And yeah, that also kind of, it helped me because I got into, first it was like, okay, this is a thing that many people experience. Um, and I also remembered from some friends that had mentioned that they also struggled with these choices. And I talked to them, and it was like many similar things. So I noticed that it's like not that
Mm.
uncommon.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the first step, to know that it's not about your relationship specifically. It's something that people struggle with. And I think especially like now, if you look at a lot of like um, media or movies, you see the patterns like all over, that it's, I think, something many people struggle with in our society today.
Mm. Hmm.
Um,
Makes sense.
and I started to, the first thing I started was actually to write down my feelings, like to dump the bad feelings.
Mm.
And also, what I thought was more important for me was to, whenever I had like a good day or I was like feeling super in love, I would write down what I knew that was true,
It's
Mm.
good.
because then I could think clearly.
Yeah.
And then I was calm, and I wrote down what I knew was true, and I that helped me when I got into a bad time again.
Mm.
Mm.
That's, I think, yeah, the first thing. Um, and then I also had the opportunity to do some therapy, which was a big help.
Sure.
Um, and it was super interesting because what we started with was working on relationship patterns, but not like with another partner, uh, because I didn't have a partner before. But we got into actually, in general, relationships, and noticed that many things that I struggled with came from experiences in school. For
Mm.
example, when you've been bullied in school or be an outsider. And I never thought that something like this could connect to
Sure.
choosing a partner in the end. But it was a lot of things that I was criticizing about myself. I would criticize on my partner.
Mm.
So it was
Mm.
like what I was beating up myself up for all my life. Now I would look for that in my partner. So it's like
Mm.
Yeah.
completely weird
Yeah.
to think about that. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the things that I started with.
That's funny because I feel like this is a good conversation because I feel like that's what a lot of people do,
Yeah.
and especially if we're talking about Christian circles. Like I don't know if the things you're referring to are like some Christian things where like we have a lot of people who come up to us and they're anxious about a relationship because their partner doesn't pray like this, or their partner doesn't
Mm.
read the Bible like this, or like and things like that, and so they're freaking out and anxious because
Mm,
they're scared their partner isn't spiritual enough,
Yep.
like things
mhm,
like that. And then for a lot of them, it's like, okay, I feel like you're looking for those things in your partner because you yourself you don't feel like what you're doing is enough,
Yeah.
mhm,
and you need to find someone who you think does that enough.
mhm,
So maybe that'll help you
Hmm.
with doing it enough. And again, that's a deeper issue because we realize a lot of
mhm,
people have, you know, a lot of false beliefs when it comes to Christianity and God, and
mhm,
put so much pressure on themselves to be a certain way,
mhm,
and perfectionism. Because
mhm,
even if we talk about outside Christian circles, there's just perfectionism in general, where
Yeah.
people have
mhm,
standards for themselves that they just can't reach, and so they unconsciously look for that in the partner. And so the partner can't reach those either, then they're
Mm.
like, I don't know if this is the right
mhm,
fit.
Yeah.
Then you look at
mhm,
yourself, and it's like, but do you yourself reach those standards? And if you don't, how, like, what gives you the right to like expect that from someone else?
Yeah.
You know?
mhm,
And this is too, it's one of our masterclass. I know we talked about that, but like talking about this projection of,
Mm,
if I'm whatever fault or belief or insecurity I have with myself,
Mm-hmm.
it is so easy to project that onto your partner and feel like I am lacking in this, so therefore you need to be perfect in this. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
like you're consciously doing that, but it's super automatic and it's like in our system to feel like I am not good socially. I
Yeah.
feel like, or my insecurity is that I'm really awkward and I'm not good socially. And so
Yeah.
if my partner, I feel like is super awkward and social, I'm like, that's a problem. That needs to be fixed. But it's like,
Mm.
I'm not really talking about you. I'm talking about me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want us to be the awkward couple. So one of us has to be good. You know what I mean? Like, and we
Yeah.
don't realize how often we're like,
Doing that.
if I have a problem with myself, I'm looking at
Mm-hmm.
you and feeling like you need to fix my flaws in a sense. Like, so please be
Yeah.
good, or please don't do these things, so I don't have to feel like your fault, your flaws, or people are seeing that in me too, you know. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
this whole projection thing, which is why it's so good. I love that you got therapy, because it's so good to be able to
Mm-hmm.
see, like, let's look at a mirror and see what's actually happening in you, because we could
Yeah.
probably find out a lot more things that are happening as to why maybe I'm nitpicking in all these
Yeah.
things on my boyfriend, you know, now husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that also really helped me, because we were talking about, if you're Christian, if you believe in God and the Bible, I also took the time to really like look into what does, if God made marriage, what does He actually think is important when you're looking for
Mhm.
a partner? And it's not that someone is the most beautiful person on earth. It's
Yeah.
like, basically the qualities that someone has is humble,
Yeah.
Mhm.
um, has God as his priority. Um,
In the heart.
Also, yeah, and what my husband also said, someone who really tries to imitate, Jesus, like he was a humble person. He was there for other people. He was respecting other people. He
Mhm.
took care. He was caring for them, and
Hmm.
so I was like really looking into this, because I believe that if you try to apply the principles from the Bible to your marriage, um, then it can succeed.
Mhm.
And that's also something that really helped me and gave me stability in that time as well.
That's true.
I love
That's
that.
good. I
That's
agree.
really good.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think a lot of people obviously are, focused on what the world focuses on and what Hollywood focuses on,
Yeah.
and the fairy tales and all that, rather than like
Mhm.
looking at the heart. Because at the end of the day, like, person you commit to, what matters most is how they are, uh,
Mhm.
how their character is, how their heart is, because every single day that's what's going to come out when they
Yeah.
live life. When you live life with them and they're sitting
Mhm.
next to you and you're doing things together, you're not going to be constantly trying to figure out if they're attractive or not.
Yeah.
No, because you're going to live life too, and you just want to make sure you live life with someone who is a good person
Mm.
and is a
Yeah.
person who will treat you right, and who will do life right, and is, like you said, humble and makes good decisions, and
Mhm.
kind and respectful, rather than like the most attractive person on the planet,
Yeah.
and I obviously, I'm not saying that you, like, people should be with people they don't find attractive at all,
Mhm.
but all these qualities, the heart, and the character of a person, that makes someone more attractive
Mm.
Yeah.
and makes them a better partner. You could be with the most attractive men on the planet. If their character is horrible, their
Mm.
heart is horrible, you're not going to be happy,
And
even though
also,
the person is so handsome.
Mhm.
yeah, and also beauty fades, so we're all
Yeah,
getting old.
Exactly.
exactly. That's the
So in
thing.
20 years, they're also gonna have wrinkles and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their hair might fall out. Like, we don't even know what
There's a
they'll look
Bible
like.
verse about that too,
That
Yeah.
that
something, her
says like the
beauty is
beauty fades
fleeting,
away or
but the
something.
woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Something like
Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I also
Mhm.
had that one in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm
That's
like,
really.
that's a good reminder,
yeah,
because
Yeah.
we can so focus on how attractive I think this person is right now in this moment.
Mm.
They need to be so handsome all the time or so beautiful all the time, so I never have any doubt. But that's
Mhm.
actually putting them on a standard that, again, is going to your own insecurity.
it's
You're
too high.
feeling
Yeah.
something, you're feeling some sort of fear and insecurity, so therefore I need them to be perfect so that I have no room to question, which is not fair
Yeah.
Yeah,
for anyone.
it's not possible.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
There was a book, I don't remember the name of the book, but the guy was saying, it's a Christian book on marriage, I believe,
Hmm.
I don't remember the name. Maybe you would remember.
There's a couple sacred marriage
No,
or okay.
I don't remember. But anyway, something he said is if you commit to someone for their beauty,
Mm.
you're investing in a depreciating asset.
Mm.
But if you commit to someone for their character, their soul, you're
Yeah.
investing in a appreciating asset. As long as there are people who actually value growth and are humble and teachable.
Yeah.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because obviously, if you commit to someone who is a toxic, abusive person, I don't know
Mm.
if you're investing in a good asset, but
No, yeah. It's gonna
No, yeah.
depreciate very fast.
yeah,
And it's
but
For
yeah,
sure.
and that's so funny when you look back on the anxiety, it looks on things that are basically changeable. You can change a t-shirt,
Mm.
you can change a haircut. You maybe can change how tall someone is, but in the end, these are all things that are not so important, but the things that actually matter, those are the ones that last. So it's actually like funny how anxiety can twist
that's
this up
true.
in your mind.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's interesting. That's true because when you think about it, that's why that's why I fought, and I'm sure that's why you fought for your relationship, and that's why I fought for my relationship with Joy, is because I was like, okay, like I'm always questioning feelings, and I'm questioning
Mm.
attraction, and I'm like things like that. But I
Yeah.
was never like when I was, if I were to think about the things that actually mattered
Mm.
Mhm.
and that were like related to the heart and the character and the quality of the relationship, I was
Mm.
like, this relationship has no red flags.
Mm.
The,
Same.
it's great relationship. We get along well. It's healthy. It's not perfect, but that's no relationship is perfect. But there was no like toxic behavior or abusive behavior, and yeah, everything was good. So that's why I
Mhm.
was like, if you look at the core of things, like I would throw away a good, solid, healthy relationship because of superficial things,
Right.
and that's
Mhm.
that's crazy, and we've seen
Yeah.
that happen, unfortunately, where people sometimes they just like they have this, and I always think about this specific person that worked with us, and they had a relationship with someone who was shorter than them, and they were not able to get over that, even though
Mhm.
everything else was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The person was a great person with a great heart,
Yeah.
man, such a kind person
Mm.
Mhm.
and a good quality person, which is hard to find. And because of the height, even though the person was still taller than, than
Yeah.
them, but it was just not that specific standard, they they broke up. I'm like, oh man,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's just sad,
Yeah.
because the height is not gonna make you happy.
Totally.
Mhm.
But it goes to show how powerful anxiety can be and
Yeah,
how it
Mhm.
can make you make decisions that don't make sense to anybody else. It can be like,
Mhm.
that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't really add up. But for them, it's like the torment is too much to be like, you know what? I'd rather find somebody who's perfect height than for me to deal with this. You know what I mean? And that's,
Yeah.
we can convince ourselves of these things because it just feels so real in the moment. Which is why it's so necessary to get this help because
Yeah.
we making decisions based off of like torment and fear is not going to actually bring value to making decisions. It's just going to feel like I have to make it's so kind of continues to reinforce like the decision I need to make only can come when there's no hindrance at all in the way. And like that's
Yeah.
not actually helping you at
Mhm.
all.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And
And the thing.
that was a prayer I had too when we were dating. I
Mhm.
was like you said earlier. I liked what you were talking about, even with you wrote down the things that were good about your relationship.
Mm.
Um, I did that too when we were dating, and I prayed. I was praying a lot, and I was asking God. I was like, "Okay, I know I have these thoughts, these doubts, but like, I know God, like the way you see her is that she's like the most beautiful, and I want you to help me see her the way that you see her."
Mm.
Uh,
Mhm.
and that little by little, I was able to shift my mind
Yeah.
to the things that actually mattered.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
It's funny because I actually did the same thing that you just said.
See, so
We're in
Mhm.
sync. I love
yeah.
that. um, so you ended up getting married. And so
Mhm.
I think this is always a good question because, well, I'll ask you first. When you got to the altar and ended up saying I do, Where was your anxiety at? Was anxiety 100% gone? Was it 85% gone? Like, where were you at in that journey?
Um, so it was like a shifting point, like 6, 7 months before I got married, and
Mm,
from then it got better because for me it was like I started, I started thinking about, okay, I know that I'm feeling bad sometimes, but then I was like, when the anxiety was strong, I was like, okay, I'm feeling bad this, at the moment, but I know that I want to make the choice about this, and I don't want my anxiety like let it make the choice about this.
right.
And so in the moment, I was still feeling bad, but it gave me the control, and the the bad times of anxiety where they got shorter and shorter.
Mm,
So I would say from this, and also at the same time, I had the therapy. From that, it was like kind of, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this choice. And I know that I'm still going to be feeling quite anxious all the time before, the wedding and everything. But I was like, kind of grabbing onto that what I knew was true, even though sometimes it would still feel super, super scary.
Mm.
mm-hmm.
So it wasn't completely gone, definitely. Um, I think in the week before, I was more nervous about the wedding preparations than I didn't have so much fear about marriage. I didn't have time for that.
For sure.
But
Yeah, makes
yeah,
sense.
it was, you know, I think we also talked about this in one session. It was like at some point you just have to jump,
Yeah.
and then it gets better. Even though it's still scary.
Mm,
But if you have the facts right, and if you know that it's going to be, the emotions, you had also the session about the emotions, that they come and go.
yeah.
And I have to say they definitely come and go, but after I got married, the emotions just were really good.
Mm.
Mm,
It's been growing better and better because now it's secure.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
I'm just talking a mix of everything.
yeah.
um yeah, so like these thoughts that the emotions come and go, and don't let the anxiety control you. At some
Mm.
point you have to be like, okay, to your brain, like, okay, we went through this, we went through everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just keep repeating the same things. I don't want to listen to it anymore.
Mm.
That's kind of what I said to myself. And that kind of helped, even though you know the the fear came back sometimes. But you just have to don't. At some point, it's just like about, I was thinking this is my relationship, and in the end, what it becomes is how, like, what you make it. So if you
Yeah.
put love into it, if you put commitment into it, if you're going to be okay, we'll make this work,
Hmm.
then it will get better. But if you keep hanging on to, the little thoughts about small things, then it's always going to be a spiral. So at some points you just have to,
Yeah.
um, yeah, take back that it's like not your anxiety that rules you, but it's like your choice and what you make of it, and it's in your power.
Mm.
So that was what I was kind of feeling, and then it just got better and better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So much wisdom. I just want to
Mhm.
throw that. Like, that's so much wisdom. And this is why I asked that question, because I think people feel like, yeah, it either needs to be 100% gone before I can make a decision,
Mhm.
or that's it.
You gotta jump.
And
Mhm.
in reality is, it's like I'm still in this journey, but I
Mhm.
had made a choice of, am I gonna sit and let this fear take over me, even though I
Yeah.
know I want to do this, or do I just jump and then just trust that everything else is gonna be fine? I'm gonna have to figure it
Yeah.
out. And that's what you did. And just being able to, sure, of course emotions go up and down, but just being even to say like, marriage has been great. And I'm thankful
Mhm.
I got married, because I didn't let these thoughts control and dictate the decisions I ended up making. That
Yeah.
is so powerful to be able to tell yourself that, because so many people do that.
Mhm.
We let fear dictate the decisions we make, and they
Mhm.
end up not doing anything. And we kind of just stay stuck
Exactly.
in anxious and overwhelmed, rather than being like, I could have just done it.
Yeah.
And what if it was actually better than I thought it was, you know? And
Mhm.
I think that's where the fear comes from, of like, well, what if it's not? And it's like, well, what if it is? You know, what if we
Yeah.
actually just focus on the
Exactly.
good
What if
stuff?
it is?
Yeah.
And also one thing that you mentioned, it's like, this saying that if you know, that's the right person.
Mm,
I think actually looking back now, I think it's really naive because um, of course it's nice. I think some people, it's two kinds of people. It's the people who overthink everything, but then they know all the facts, and even if they're scared, they know it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And for some people, they know it's the right. They feel they're calm, more calm about these things, and maybe so they have like this certainty feeling. But I
Yeah,
think that can be dangerous too, because if you're too certain and you're not critical enough beforehand about the important things,
Mm.
yeah. So that's like my mind shift from like believing, oh, you if you find the person, it's you're just gonna know it's the one. I think actually, the other way around now, looking back at it, that it's good sometimes to be not to be anxious, of course, but
Right.
to, really check everything. So that's just a side note.
Yeah. No, I agree though. I think that
Mm,
it's if you're thinking critically, we'll say about your relationship, that is you finding the things, finding the traits and the characteristics of this person that are actually going to last long
yeah,
term. Like you can't just be like,
exactly.
oh, things feel so good, so I'm just going to go for it. I'm like, well, you have to know if this person's going to be a good person. Like you take time to think about that.
Yes.
Um, so there's like two versions of it where it's like if you know, you know, and people are like, oh, things felt good, so we got married, and then I
yeah,
didn't know anything about that person. That's not good.
Mm,
But then
mhm.
also we don't want to overthink so much that we don't make any decision. There's so like two extremes, and
Yeah.
I love that like you bringing that up too, because there is like we need to have the balance of I've
Mhm.
used this time to understand the information about this person, our connection, um
Yeah.
their traits, like their characteristics, who they are. Those are great. That I took time to know that.
yeah,
But everything else, these like
Mhm.
ups and downs, like, oh, but I should feel like let that go. Because
Mhm.
those are not important. I promise you. It feels so
Exactly.
important right now because everyone's saying that it is. And also it gives you some false
Mhm.
security that everything's gonna be okay. But the certainty comes from the things that I know right now. The things that I know are
Yeah.
true are X, Y, and Z. The things that matter are good. Those are the things that I needed to use to make a decision. Nothing else should feel like the biggest factor in it. Like the other things can be like 2%. That's fine. You should be attractive to them. That's not saying that's not attractive. That's not important. It's important for you to think your person's attractive. But if you are like so hyper fixated on it and that needs to be
Mhm.
the most important thing, sometimes you miss out on the other stuff that matters so much more
yeah,
than
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you bringing that up because I think that that's a really good distinction for people to see
yeah.
and
And
hear.
then I
Mhm.
think we know some couples, to be honest, who had, you know, no problem at all before they got married, where it was kind of like it
Mhm.
made sense,
Mm.
you know, and then now a few years later they're divorced. So
Mhm.
it's sad. And then we know people who had relationship anxiety
Mhm.
and married, and they've been married for years and they're doing fine.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's just interesting. And I remember too, like before I was thinking about getting engaged with her, I talked to a mentor, and I was telling him I was kind of anxious about that because I wasn't
Mhm.
sure, like, I know the relationship was good and all that. I mean, all the anxious stuff. And then my mentor was like, "Well, I think that's normal, and I think it's good that you're a little anxious because that goes to show that you take things seriously,
Mhm.
and you're not
Yes.
just going
Yeah.
for it blindly because everything is perfect and because it's the honeymoon phase and the
Mm.
butterflies. You're actually like sitting
Mhm.
down and thinking. And obviously I think if you're anxious, you're thinking a little too much, but
Mhm.
at least you're thinking a little bit, and
Yeah.
you're realizing that it's a big decision, and it's important to make sure you're choosing the person for the right reasons, not
Mhm.
because they're attractive or because whatever they have like a amazing sense of fashion or things like that, but because they have a
Mhm.
good heart and they're people of good character,
Yeah.
because that's what's going to make the relationship successful long term.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
Totally.
So if you were to give, there was two questions. I'm going to put this last one. If you were to give someone who's dealing with relationship anxiety right now, like let's just say they're in the thick of it,
Mm.
what's one piece of encouragement you would give them now?
I think basically what I just said, that you know, in I think anxiety makes us believe we're helpless about this
Mhm.
situation. We'll be subject to our emotions forever if we make this choice. But like, saying, okay, this is my relationship, and it's going to become, if you have the right partner, if you have a loving partner, it's going to become what we put into it. So it's like,
Mm.
if you commit to it, and if you're, just accepting them for who they are, because probably if it's a loving partner, they're doing the same for you. Sorry about that.
Okay.
No worries.
um, then just, yeah, just like you guys said, just go for it. If you know if it checks all the boxes, and it's just like the fear about small things, superficial
Yeah.
things, that's keeping you, and it's, like it's tormenting you, because it's not going to find an end by itself. It's
Yeah.
We have to, take our thoughts, and, you know
Yeah.
and it's you in your hands, basically.
Mm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was the most empowering thing for me. Just,
Yeah.
mm,
Totally. Like,
It's crazy how similar your journey was to mine. It's interesting because even after I got
mm,
married, it was the same thing. It's like my anxiety kind of went down a lot, and I really felt more stable
yeah,
when it comes to my emotions. Because, like you said, it was like, the deal was done. You know
mm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, okay, now we're in this, and there's no way out. There's
yeah,
no way out. I'm not looking for a, a possibility of a
Yeah.
divorce or whatever it is. Like,
yeah,
that's never a thought that would have crossed my mind. So I'm going to make this work. And I think those beliefs are healthy. And once we were married, it was like the anxiety kind of disappeared because
yeah.
is like, well, it's almost like there's just no point to it
Mm.
because I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
You're not making a
So
choice anymore, so
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
exactly. So that's yeah, that's crazy. I just think I love a lot of things that you said, and I relate because obviously that's things that we talk about in the courses as well. Because I think that was the thing for me too. Was like at some point, like you have to jump,
Mm-hmm.
and it's no matter the decision you make, it's going to be a step of faith. So
Yeah.
it's if you have to accept that you have to accept a lot there's always a level of risk involved with any decision that you make because you can't just control everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to make a decision with the best like to the best of your knowledge,
Yep.
like
Mhm.
what you have, the information that you currently have, the facts that you currently have matter more than a possible negative outcome that
Mm.
you don't even like you have no evidence that that would ever happen,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And also, from something that I was always worried about is if my, being in love emotions would come back. And I
Mm.
have to say, they are stronger than ever. So it's like,
Mm.
now it's peaceful, but now they're like really steady.
Yeah,
And it's like,
exactly.
one thing that I kept on to, because we only saw each other on the weekends, because also when I was back in Germany, we lived far away. Every weekend, I was looking forward to see him. And then when he left, I was always really, really sad.
Mm.
And now, like, it's every day like this, and it's just like we're so happy when we see each other at the end of the day.
Mm.
Mm.
So it's like I was so scared of never having this like in love emotions again. But if you're like, when you truly love someone, and you just love each other more, we actually say we love each other more every day. To be
Mm.
honest,
Mm.
it's like, somewhere I read this, like someone said, "I love you more than yesterday, but not as much as tomorrow." And I
Mm.
think that's like, ever since we got married, that's like my motto.
That's
That's
good.
cute. I love that. I think I've heard that quote and I actually
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, I think that that's like I really appreciate you saying that because I think that again, you having somebody who's on like the other side, like you end up getting married, you're on the other side of it, and you saying the fears that I thought were going to be the biggest thing didn't actually happen. That's a
Mm.
very big deal to say,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because I think that's everyone's biggest fear of
Mm.
if my fears come true and then I'm stuck and now what I do. And it's like
Mm.
that didn't happen to you. It
Yeah.
actually was opposite. And it even like
Mhm.
obviously we're a testament to that too. And so many stories of people who their fears of what they thought would happen didn't happen. And actually something better happened. It's like that's great. That's a great sign. And also just this thing of it's so interesting how our fear and the perceptions of what we think our reality is at that time, we think that that's what it is. Like we think that this is the biggest thing
Mm.
that we're going to experience when in reality it's actually not that. Like once you're on the other side of it, you're able to like even laugh at it a little bit and be like,
Yeah.
wow, I was
Mhm.
so
That deep.
freaked out. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. So it's not even like we're in
Yeah.
May, we're gonna be 6 years, which is crazy. It's
Wow.
crazy. Um, and just thinking about that to feel like, imagine if we didn't do it. You know what I mean? Imagine
Yeah.
if that ended up not being our story. We ended up breaking up. Like one,
Mhm.
this whole thing we do is not going to be around, but also just like what a loss that would have been for me in my heart. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
it's it for you too. But it would have been like
That would have been crazy. Very
really
different life.
sad to feel like we ended up saying no to a decision that was we're seeing so much fruit from it now.
Yeah.
Just our love is fruit, you know what I mean? But everything else has been created from this. It's unreal. So
Yeah.
um I just again I have everything you said. I appreciate you saying because it just you have articulated this so well
Yeah.
and so like for somebody who's experiencing, I know they'll hear this and be like, oh my, everything you're saying is exactly what I'm experiencing, or just like
Yeah.
that's the thought I had too, and just being able to hear like you're on the other side of it through therapy, through RAA, through math, like through the things that you were able to like choose to invest in,
Yeah.
and like you've been able to see
The
the
fruit.
fruit of the things that you were sowed into. Like I think that that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like we have the power about, what you reap what you sow. So if you
Mhm.
Yeah.
put the energy and the thoughts into the things that you know are true, it will get better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's so good. That's so good.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. I
Like,
don't know. You're
we
looking
can
at
wrap
me,
up.
so I'm like, I think
No,
this is good.
this is
Yeah.
really good. We obviously appreciate you so much for joining us and just being able to share your story. And again,
Yeah. Thank you for opening up.
like thank you for just willing to say yes, because I know this was like nerve wracking, and like I know it can feel scary to be like, I'm sharing my story. I hope I share it well. I'm like, and you did such an incredible job, like
Thank you for being,
literally
yeah.
incredible.
Thank you for being transparent.
Yeah, and so this will come out. We'll let you know when this comes out and all that. But thank you all so much for listening. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it with somebody who needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Um, rate the podcast, write a review. I believe this podcast you will be on YouTube as well. So like do all the things that they say to do on YouTube, subscribe, all the things. And we will plan on seeing you all in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Sounds good.
See you all then. Bye.
Bye.